Lindsey, and I'm an alcoholic. And my sobriety date is June 15th of 2016. I have a home group. It's Primary Purpose. We meet on Mondays and Thursdays. And I have a sponsor who also has a sponsor, and so on and so forth. I'm very nervous, so I just wanted to let you know, because I'm not sure what I'm going to say, but here it goes. So I do want to thank you, Casey, for asking me to share my experience tonight. It's such an honor and a privilege to be up here, because I struggled. I came in these rooms for years, struggling to stay sober for a day, never believing that I could stay sober for a year. So I'm just so grateful to be able to be up here. And only through God's grace, this program of Alcoholics Anonymous, my willingness to stay sober, and my sponsor, that's the only way I'm up here tonight. So I was born in Illinois to a loving mother and father who were very heavy drinkers. My mother, till this day, I wouldn't call her an alcoholic. I never really have. She's a very successful woman who's very supportive and has always been there for me. But she drinks almost every day. And my father, he was a very heavy drinker, and then just stopped one day. Never attended meetings, never did anything at all. He just one day quit drinking, and that's what happened between him and my mother. Alcohol was in their relationship from the beginning. And it was a huge part of their separation. And he got a lot of DUIs. He was very aggressive, and that's what kind of pulled them apart. And that was really hard for me as a young child. My mother immediately met another man who was soon to be my stepfather. And we moved away when I was 7 years old. And something inside of me changed from that point forward. Life just suddenly became difficult. I was depressed. I felt alone in a huge crowd. And living in Miami, I was a minority. I didn't know Spanish at all, and I wanted to fit in, and I never could, and that's where it kind of started for me. From school was really tough for me. I never really understood it. It was just a constant struggle. I always felt different. I never felt like I was good enough or smart enough or pretty enough, and I always wanted to be like everybody else, but myself. And we moved constantly. I never went to the same school for more than a year, and that was really hard for me as well. I felt like there wasn't much stability, there wasn't much structure in the house, in our house. And I think my mom had a lot of guilt for moving me away from all my family. All my family still lives in Illinois to this day, and I think she carried a lot of guilt from that. So I never heard the word no. I didn't really know what no meant. So I just got anything I wanted. I got to do whatever I wanted. And so it's just sorry. It's really scary for me to be up here. But yeah, so it was just, I just didn't have much structure growing up. And when we moved to Florida, my my mom and my stepfather separated a year later, and I thought that we were going to be able to move back because I'm so close with my family, and all I ever wanted was just to be around a large family and to celebrate holidays and birthdays together, and I never had that. And so I always just felt that emptiness inside of me. And so when they separated, my mom met another man, and he moved in immediately. So I continued to build resentments towards my mother. At one point in my life, I hated her. I never felt like she loved me. I just thought she loved other men instead of me. And one thing that I absolutely loved, though, was softball. And that's what held my mom and I together. She was my coach, and I was a pitcher. And so we would, every Tuesdays and Thursdays, we would have pitching practice together. And that's how we bonded. And I loved it. I had dreams of having a scholarship in softball. But alcohol took that away. And also just moving all around every year. I didn't have the ambition to want to do it anymore. I wanted to have the same softball group, and it always changed. So I quit. One day I just kind of gave it up. And we moved we were living in Fort Lauderdale, and we moved from Fort Lauderdale to Miami, Florida. And by this time I'm in the 6th grade, and all those feelings of just never fitting in or never just being good enough, they got worse. And as I got a little bit older, 6th grade, I was picked on. There was a lot of Hispanic girls in that school, and they were really popular and really pretty, and I just never felt like I could ever amount to anything like that. And they picked on me all the time. I would eat lunch in the bathroom, and I would cry, and I'd come home and tell my mom that I really didn't want to be alive. I didn't want to be in school. It was just really hard for me. And that's where I started to become defiant. I just hated my mother. I hated being there. I never had a close relationship with my stepfather, and this was my mother's 3rd marriage at this time. And so I just always felt alone. And by this time, I do have a brother who is 2 years older than me, and by this time he had moved with my father to Illinois. So I was the only child, and I was by myself. And at the end of 6th grade, that's where I really started to lie too. I started to lie, I started to steal. School was a constant struggle. I was making like D's and F's, and my mother just couldn't understand what was wrong with me. And I told her that I'm ready to go live with my father, that I just don't want to live here anymore. And she said, okay. So that's what I did. I moved into Illinois to be around my whole family, and something that I always wanted to do. And when I got there, that's not what I wanted. Because I never, like I said, I never grew up around discipline or structure, or I never heard the word no. And at my dad's house, it was completely different. He wanted me to have discipline and structure so I could have a good life for myself, really, now that I look back on it. But I was defiant, and I didn't want to live like that. I was just that typical teenager. So when I got there, I rebelled, and I felt like my stepmother didn't love me. I felt like she was jealous of my father and I's relationship. And but now that I can see the truth, it was just me. And so life was really hard. It was really tough being there as well. I wanted to come back to my mom's immediately, and he wouldn't let me. So I spent my 7th and 8th grade year there, and as time went by, I really liked it. I got involved into sports, in cheerleading and volleyball and basketball, and I found some really great friends, and I started to like it, but something was always missing, and I think it was just being around my mother, and I didn't like rules, and I just wanted everything to be my way, and I knew if I went back to my mom's house that's what it would be like, so I did. At the age of 14, almost 15, I moved back to my mom's. And by this time, I was a freshman in high school. And we lived in Miami, Florida then. And the high school there, it was Southridge, and it was a lot of gangs, a lot of criminal violence. And so my mom tried to get me into this school. It was like a charter school, but you had to get accepted into it you could go for like computers or dance or and she applied for me to get into the school, and I remember she prayed every day for me to get accepted into this school because she wanted a better life for me, and I did. I got accepted, and what happened is around that time I took my first drink, and I can remember clear as day what that was like, and all the fears in my head dulled when I took that drink, and nothing was ever the same after that night. I felt like I found my purpose. I felt like I found the secret to life. I found a place where I was beautiful. I felt strong. I felt smart. I found like I found a place where pain could no longer touch me. And after that night, it wasn't the same. Nothing was ever the same. I hit the ground running when I took that first drink. Like I said, my mom has always drank, so I didn't have to try to find it or go to the stores and steal it. I just stole it from my mom, and I did, and I drank almost every day. And what happened was I was kicked out of that school that my mom worked so hard to get me into, and I was sent to an alternative school. And by this time, I had also found marijuana, and so I was drinking and smoking regularly every day, and I was getting into just a lot of trouble. I was arrested at the age of 15 at that alternative school. It's the first time I ever went to jail. And just kind of like the pattern of what we go through, that's how my life was like for the next couple years. I stole my mother's vehicle and my father's vehicle. I was sneaking out, staying up really late, and going to school. I barely could function. I just really didn't care. I didn't care about life. I didn't care about school. I just didn't care about my future, really. And at this point, I was almost 17, and my mom was really worried. I think I just stressed her out so much. I was stealing from my family, from her husband's side of the family. We would go and spend time with them, and I was stealing from their purse, everybody's purse. And that's just what I did. And at this point, my mom had applied for a job in Laurinburg, North Carolina, and she thought by us moving away that would change, and that I would start focusing on school, and that I would just be a better kid. And that didn't happen at all. I moved to Scotland I moved to Laurinburg and went to Scotland High School my 11th grade year, and it was bad. It was really bad. I hated life. I hated everybody. I was like in this big city to this like really small town, and I was like, what is going on? And so I just kind of rebelled again. I was very defiant. I remember like the second week of school, I had like 25 write-ups. I had to do detention like almost every day, and it was really bad. And then finally they were like, look, well, we had enough of you. You can't no longer come to this school. So I went to another alternative school, which was East Laurinburg, like in the ghetto. And it was kind of an eye-opener, because I thought I was like big and bad, and like nobody could touch me, and I get to this school and I'm like terrified, like these people are ready to beat me up, and they didn't think I was cool at all. And what happened was I just continued to just suck at life, and I didn't study, and I didn't care, but I did make it to the 12th grade, and they gave me a chance to go back to Scotland. So I did. I went back to Scotland, and I did the same thing over again, and I was sent back to that alternative school. I didn't learn any lesson whatsoever, and I graduated. I barely graduated, but I did. I think it was like my smile or something that got me through, because it definitely wasn't my academics at all. And they let me walk on stage at Scotland High, but I graduated and I made it. And believe it or not, my mom was really proud of me, and that's where our relationship started to kind of grow. I turned 18. I graduated in June, and then in July I turned 18, and something inside of me changed. I just wanted to be that daughter that she always wanted me to be, and so I did. I told her that I was going to go to college. I told her that I was going to get a job. So I got a job at Ruby Tuesdays. I was driving from Laurinburg to Southern Pines, and I worked at Ruby Tuesdays. And I was going to start college in the fall. And one day I was working, and this man came in, and my life forever changed. He came in with his mother, and he asked if he could take me out on a date, and I was like, yeah, sure, because I always had an empty hole inside of me, and I knew that like Prince Charming was going to come and like sweep me off my feet and take care of me, and because that's what I wanted. And so what happened was like the total opposite. But I mean, it kind of happened that way. But no, I met him that night. We went on a date, and he was living in West Virginia. He actually lived here, but he was at West Virginia working at a ski resort. And long story short, I packed my stuff up and moved the next day. I didn't even know him. Didn't even know his last name. Nothing at all. And but my mom was like, she was like, "You're not gonna do that." And I was like, "Yeah, I'm 18. Like, I can do whatever I want." So I did. She was like, "Well, I have to meet him first." And I said, "Okay." So we went down to my mom's and we had lunch, and she met him, and she was like, "Okay, whatever." So I packed my stuff. Well, his mother made us do the same thing. So then we had dinner at her house, and she was like, "Okay." So we did. So we hopped in the car and we moved to West Virginia, and it's crazy, right? But yeah, and that's where I started to kind of grow up a little bit. I wanted a family really bad, and so we met like one day, moved to the next, and then like tried to have a kid like a month later. That's just what I do, you know. Like, I'm so impulsive, and it sounded great, so I did it. And a year later, we had a daughter, and that's where I felt like I found my purpose. Was becoming a mother. That's all I ever wanted to do, was to be a mother. The relationship that I have with children, I just absolutely love them, and so I wanted that. I wanted that family, because I felt like that was going to fill that empty hole inside of me, and it didn't. It didn't at all. But I will say, from up to high school, I drank, and then when I met him, I didn't drink at all. Everything just moved so quickly. I was pregnant at 19, had her at 20. On my 21st birthday, I was pregnant with our second daughter, and had her at 22. And like, that's just all I wanted, and life was awesome. Even though we were like so poor, in 2008, when like the economy crashed and gas was $5 a gallon, we were living in Florida, but it was okay, because like everything was okay. And so what happened was we moved around quite a bit, and we ended up in Asheville, on the top of a mountain, all by myself, and I just felt so empty. He wasn't in the military, but he worked for the military here. So he would drive from Asheville here, and he was always gone. He did like a month off, a month on. So I felt alone. I felt a lot of feelings started to crop up living there. And that's kind of where I thought about drinking again, because it helped me with all my fears, all my worries, with everything. And I was tired of I was a stay-at-home mom, and I was tired of doing that. And so I got a job as a bartender, and it started from there. I would stay after work while he had the kids, and I would just drink one or two, and then I'd come home, and then it progressively got worse. Then I was drinking like 6 or 7, coming home at like 4 in the morning, and then there was times where I didn't come home at all, and our relationship just got really bad, and so we decided, and we fought constantly, and so we decided to move here because this is where we met. I had a really close friend here, and his family lived here, so we moved back here, and we were going to try it again. Everything was going to get better. I was going to quit drinking. I had a few episodes in our relationship that ended really bad, and he was like, "You have a problem." And so I slowly kind of started to see it, but not really. And we moved here, and what happened is it got worse. I had a really good friend here, so I went out with her all the time, and I loved being a mother, but I was tired of it. I felt like I did so much as being a stay-at-home mom that it was his turn. So I was always gone constantly, and what happened is it pushed him away so far to where one day I was coming home from work, and the cops were behind me, and they ordered me a 50B restraining order, and they took everything from me. They took the car that was in his name. I couldn't see my children for 10 days, and it was on December 17th, and we were going to go to my parents for Christmas in Illinois, and because our relationship was so bad, he thought I was going to take the girls and never come back. So he threw this restraining order on me, and that was the beginning of our separation, really. I spent Christmas all by myself. I was so empty, and I was so alone, and that's where my drinking really started again. And it took off big time. I was, drinking almost every day. I couldn't hold a job. I couldn't do anything really. I just drank that pain away because I was so sad. I never thought that my family, I never thought that we would ever separate. And so in 2013, we separated in December of 2012. And in the beginning of 2013, I moved into an apartment on my own. And I tried to start life over, but I just continued to drink all the time. And in September of that year, I went to a party at like 12 o'clock in the afternoon, and I was a blackout drinker. I didn't drink for the taste at all. I just drank for the effect, and so I went to this party, and I'm like driving home at 6 o'clock in the afternoon, and I'm absolutely wasted. And I don't really remember. I just remember waking up in jail, and that was my first DUI that happened. And my family, especially my mother, she always told me that I wasn't an alcoholic and I didn't have a problem, that I was just going through a tough time, and that's all I needed to hear, to drink the way that I could drink. And so I just kept drinking, and I really didn't get in trouble. I lost my license for a couple months, but I got it right back. And so what happened was I got a job bartending again, and one night we made Jello shots, and instead of like passing them out to the guests, I just went in the back and ate them all. I think it was like 25 or 30. I don't remember a thing. But what I do remember is waking up in jail again, not knowing like what the hell happened. I didn't know. I didn't know how I got here or how this happened again. But I did find out. I finally hired a lawyer because this time it was a felony DUI for fleeing and eluding, and I drove around the traffic circle like 40 times, thinking that the cops would maybe just go away, but it was really bad, and so that was a felony, and from that point, I felt like I wanted to kill myself. I didn't want to live. I didn't feel like I had a purpose anymore. My kid's father didn't want me around them whatsoever. My family thought I was disgusting. They couldn't trust me whatsoever. So a man told me, I used to babysit his children, and he was like, I just started going to AA. Maybe you should try it. And I'm like, okay, that sounds like a great idea. And so I came here, not because I was an alcoholic. I came here to get everything back. I wanted my car back. I wanted my kids back. I wanted my license back. And I sat right over there thinking I was like the hottest thing ever. And what I did is I dressed up this trash can, and I thought I was so pretty. And I'm over here Google-eyeing men, and what happened was I got drunk again. And it continued to happen over and over because I didn't want to see who I was on the inside. I just wasn't ready for it. And I wanted that man to fix me and to make me feel better. And so I had to go out and I had to get more pain. And we actually went out together. It was a rough road. For a year and a half, I came in and out of these rooms. I got a sponsor, but I wasn't willing to follow any suggestions. I wasn't willing to pray or to seek God or to try to build a relationship with Him at all. And life just continued to get worse. And eventually, the relationship that I thought was the best thing in the world was actually destroying the both of us. And one day he had left, and I was alone again. And for a couple months, I turned to another substance. But for out of respect for AA, I won't really talk about it. But that substance brought me to my knees so fast. And today I'm so grateful for it, because I don't know if I would have been able to admit that I was an alcoholic or to ever truly see it. I lived in denial for so long because every time I kind of slowly lost things, I got them back immediately. My children were always in my life. I still had a place to live. So the hardest thing for me to do was to admit that I was an alcoholic. But April 22nd, I was on probation for this DUI, and I absolutely loved my probation officer, by the way. I believe that God put this woman in my life for a reason. She never gave up on me. She knew that I was doing things that were illegal and that were wrong, but she never took me to jail. And I felt like I could trust her. And so one day I called her, just on my knees, just begging for help. I told her I couldn't live like this any longer. And she told me that there was a bed available June 15th at Black Mountain Substance Abuse for Women. And I went. And it was amazing. That was not a 12-step program. But something changed for me the minute that I walked in there. I think the emptiness, the loneliness, being away from my children, I don't know what it was, but I prayed. I didn't even know what I was praying for or what I was praying about, but I prayed every day. I cried every day, and I prayed every day for 90 days. And I was willing to make a change. And I did. I got out of there, and while I was in there, I told my counselor that I want to go to the Bethany house. I wanted to go to my mom's, really and truly I did. but I felt like God intervened in my life, and He was like, you need to be at the Bethany house. And so that's what I did. I went to the Bethany house, and I slowly started to build a relationship with God. I went to a retreat in November, and that's where I found my sponsor. And I asked her to be my sponsor, and I thought she was just going to say yes, because who I am, and she didn't. She said, "Are you willing to stay sober and to go to any lengths?" And I said, "Yeah." And she said, "Well, what I want you to do is I want you to go upstairs. I want you to pray for a woman, for you to be able to talk to a woman, for a woman to come into your life who can just share their story with you." And I did. It's the first time that I actually took suggestions and wanted to take them. And I did. I did exactly what she told me to do. And it was amazing. It was amazing, the story that this woman told me. It was exactly just like mine. She gave me so much hope. She wrote me a letter that I still have in my wallet to this day. And from that point forward is when I truly started to believe God. I started to feel like this is going to work, that if I just continue to do what I'm asked to do, that everything's going to be okay. And I did, and I still do that to this day. And this program has given me so much that I never thought I could have. I have self-worth today. I can look people in the eyes today. Making amends is one of the hardest things I've ever had to do, but I've found a new freedom and a new happiness by doing it, and I'm able to have a relationship today. It's crazy. It is a crazy relationship, but I absolutely love him. And it's been hard to have a relationship sober, because one, I don't really know who I am. I didn't for a long time, and it's been hard to kind of build a relationship with God. It hasn't been hard, but it's taken a lot longer. But each day, as I continue this process, it gets easier and easier. I have a relationship with my kid's father today that I never thought I would have. And with his wife, we do birthday parties together. They bring the girls over and they stay, and they come in and we can all talk as a family. And it's amazing. That is a miracle, because I never thought that I could have that today. And I'm just so grateful for this program. I'm grateful for this life that it has given me today. And I'm grateful for you asking me to be up here. So thank you so much.